Great to have you today on the program. On Press Hour, we do not suppress our emotions, but rather we let our good sense lead our ideas and our discussions. His name is Victory Kamini 11 years old. Like the 7 other school children of Mother Francisca's International Bilingual Academy in Kumba, did nothing to die from a gun that was in the wrong hands. I am Victory. September Amnesty Month was commemorated earlier this week under the theme Silencing the Guns for Sustainable Peace. And today our focus will be on how peace can silence the guns in Cameroon. We shall also discuss regional and local authorities with respect to what some critics say some of their roles are either overlap or conflict. And that will be the 2 topics that we're going to discuss today on Press Hour. And to talk about these topics, we have a full house here. We have the following panel. We have Mola Ejani Leonard Kulu, who is a political scientist, University of Chang. Welcome to the program, Mola.
Thank you very much, Kilian, and good afternoon to co-panelists. It's a pleasure to be here once more, though with a heavy heart as to the incidents in Kumba yesterday. Yes,
we're actually going to begin the program with that. Mr. Eugene Galem, Executive Director of CAMEROON, Cameroon Republic. Welcome to the program. You have the civil society.
Thank you so much, Kilian, and I'm grateful to be here. And pleased to have the other panelists that are with me. In fact, I am the Executive Director of the Cameroon Youth and Students Forum for Peace, CAMYOUSFOR, and Cameroon's representative to the African Union Economic, Social and Cultural Council, ECOSOC.
Now, you know so much about gun control. You're going to enlighten us on that.
In fact, I am an expert on gun control, and that's why I'm here this morning.
Thank you very much. We have Ajumani Francis, journalist, Cameroon Insider. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning, Kilian. Good morning to the other panelists. Delighted to be on this panel today, especially as I meet my brother, friend, and former classmate, Mola Leonard Ejani Kulu. It's with a heavy heart that I come on Press today. After what happened in Kumba yesterday, it's very difficult to get sleep when you know that you can just lose a child like that under
unexplained circumstances. We feel that's why I say on Press Hour, we do not suppress our emotions. We only let our good sense lead our ideas and our discussion. And we have Emmanuel von Ban, journalist, The Horizon. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Kilian, to other fellow panelists. Good afternoon to you and to all the televiewers of CRTV who are watching us at this time. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, and we have another guest who is sitting right here with us, but he will come in as a guest on the second topic, Mr. Manyanye Ekome, Director of Communications and Public Relations on the Ministry of Decentralization and Local Development. You have all these people who are going to discuss the 2 topics, but we always begin with press review, and press review is done for us this week by Cynthia Saptala. Cynthia.
This week's newspapers addressed events like the 11th session of the Cameroon Business Forum, relaunching the economy post-COVID-19, the launch of the Amnesty Month, and government's provision of 1.7 billion CFA francs to revamp the tourism sector. On the topic, Tuesday's edition of Cameroon Tribune provided the distribution method approved by government to assist business activities in the tourism sector survive the global health crisis. Relaunching the economy post-COVID-19 was the focus of this year's ended session of the Cameroon Business Forum. In Friday's edition of Cameroon Tribune, 7 points were outlined, 7 points that unveil the roadmap to boost businesses, notably the creation of enterprises, issuance of building permits, access to electricity, conduct of trans-border trade, and the transfer of property. Other major news for this week was the launch of the Amnesty Month reported by the Guardian Post newspaper. According to the article, government is urged to engage the youth, women and civil society organizations to achieve an ongoing disarming campaign. Page 3 of Tuesday's edition of the paper says government is set to reinforce existing mechanisms and institutions to not only encourage the surrendering of weapons, but also control the illicit flow of small and light weapons by civilians in the country. The phone tax was another major topic in this week's newspaper publications. In the Post, for example, he headlined on the takeoff of taxes on phones fails over absence of interconnection. According to the paper, the payment of custom duty on imported telephones, tablets and other access devices that were projected to begin October 15 failed to take off due to the absence of interconnection between databases of mobile phone companies and the digital government platform. On this issue, the Horizon reads, a tense social climate forces Biya to backpedal, saying that social tensions hastened the suspension of its application. But to start off the week, the Guardian Post and Cameroon Tribune published a story of the 11 hostages freed from amber captivity in Lebialem by the military. The rescue mission organized by the Rapid Intervention Battalion B in the southwest region follows another that had seen 13 other hostages set free. The Guardian Post on its part began the week with this headline on the senior divisional officer von Dian for Wang Lawrence, accused of imposing non-native Nawango Atia Manfred as ruler of Ekondo Titi. In the Post-Weekender, Kumbo Bishop leads Christians in a peace march calling on the population in the Bui division to give peace a chance. In other news, COVID-19 measures evaluated in universities according to Cameroon Tribune, while the tarring of the Bamenda-Babajou Road, according to the Guardian Post, remains unattended, with government's silence on the subject. Based on the paper, July 2020, Yaoundé authorities had announced imminent kickoff of construction works on the dilapidated stretch, and yet no works have begun. In sports, we end with this story reported by the Post-Weekender on the firing of coach Yves Clément Aroga 3 months to the 2021 African Nations Championship due to his poor performances recorded during the last 3 friendly games. Those were some of the stories that made news this week.
Agenda 2063 of the African Union. The goal is to create a conflict-free, integrated and prosperous Africa. But as the Amnesty Month, September, was carried forward to October this year, celebrated earlier this week, just within the period of celebration, and a very gruesome act took place in Kumba in the southwest region, where one armed person, a gun in the wrong hands, got into a school and brought down so many children. Amnesty Week, or something that happens. Mr. Eugene, you know about gun control. First of all, reaction to this Kumba incident in relation to Amnesty Week.
I think it's very, very painful to see children lose their lives in a couple of seconds or in a couple of minutes. Linking this to the Amnesty Month, the Amnesty Month is a month that was declared by the AU, AU Decision 645, declaring September of every year from 2017 to 2020 as the Amnesty Month in Africa. And the Amnesty Month is basically on the voluntary handing over of illegal weapons. It's the kind of weapon that was used just yesterday on these kids. Those are the kinds of weapons that are expected to be handed over. And as such, we could link this to the illicit proliferation of weapons.
You're going to explain that. We first react to the...
So my reaction is painful, and I feel for the families, I feel for those children, because No one is exempted, and I think we've had this pain for over 4 years, and we hope it could soon come to an end.
Political scientist Mola Ejani, this cannot be explained anywhere. Can it be explained politically?
Certainly, we need to understand that conflict is inherent in our society. And most often, works have been put in place to see how we can prevent to see an outbreak of conflict, because by the time tensions do escalate to violent armed conflict, these type of incidents are lived in any society in the world. So most often, the logic, most especially from the level of the international community, likewise within states, they ensure that they check conflict from escalating, because once it escalates, to control them becomes extremely difficult. That is why some of us from 2016 were like, you have every reason to be angry, but how you fight matters. If you use it the wrong way, even you are not exempted from the disgrace. And today we are living it, because at the end of the day, the Anglophones, in quote, are those suffering. Meanwhile, they were like thinking they want to do something. So how we fight matters. And it is very, very painful to see young people who are going to school. I don't know if there is any society we can create in the world without education, who are being attacked. If you should go to the 1949 law on war, if you want to fight war, attack military targets, not civilians. But unfortunately, people embark upon themselves to maybe radicalize minds, to maybe fight without knowing anything as to the art of war. And today we are suffering.
We are suffering. You said Anglophones are suffering. Adjumani, Francis, I don't think that Anglophones are suffering. I think that Cameroon is suffering.
Cameroon is suffering. What affects the nose? We have this, there is this popular saying that when Yaoundé breeds Cameroon, it's okay, but what we are living today, or what we are living now, challenges that saying, because it's the whole country that's in pain, it's the whole country that's in difficulty. Coming back to the events that happened yesterday, the way I received the information, I was reflecting, in my role as a journalist, I was reflecting yesterday to do a paper on Kumba. That is just days after the town just had a new city mayor. So I was asking myself questions. What now for Kumba? Kumba has been one of the hardest hits in this conflict. I was saying that, well, a new wind is blowing across Kumba. We have a new city mayor. Can the new city mayor come with a fresh impetus? When I was going through these reflections, I picked up my phone just to realize I saw a message, a black day in Kumba. I said, but what kind of black day again? Only to realize that the hope that I had in Kumba, the hope that I had for a new beginning in Kumba, had completely been dashed. I still cannot understand how a human being will open fire on children in school. It's okay.
Emma Funban, it is really touching.
Absolutely, Kilian, like you said, and before I go further, I just want to repeat what you said, that I am Victory and the classmates. It is very touching, it is very agonizing, and I very much believe that there is no way one could explain this better. And I think that there is something that we need to start reminding ourselves. We don't expect that with this, with the way the world is advancing, with the way people are getting education, that responsible people should still be going into these kind of acts. Africa, so many years back, in the years of our grandparents, when people were not as educated as now, we rarely had these things. So I think that in my own angle, I am gradually discovering that there is something which is happening to our cultures, and we need to start running back to it. Because this aspect of taking a gun to shoot at somebody, this was not part of us. This has never been part of us. And talk more of killing a child. So there is something which is getting wrong with our culture, and it is high time that we start going back to it, so that we are truly the Africans that we need to be. this character is not of Africans.
Yes, we will get to the Amnesty Day. We're still on this Boya gruesome story, Kumba, gruesome killing of children, school children of Francisca Academy, International Academy. You, Mr. Mola, Jani, you said there's no way we can explain this because it hits children. This can now be classified without any contradiction that this is terrorism.
It is.
I think
it is extreme terrorism. You can go to the 1949 convention, as I said, regulating conflict. We can't deny people from fighting, but how we fight matters. There are rules that do govern it. And that is why you see Article 3 of it is extremely clear on how to fight. And if you should take such a situation, because remember, if you should go to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in its Article 26, I'm sure education is a right.
Exactly.
To children. And if you should come back, even in our Constitution, in the preamble, education remains a right.
That's correct.
It is fundamental to accept this. Now, what we are seeing today, we are simply seeing people who don't know how to fight, who've been armed and radicalized to destroy their own. And we can't preserve future generations under such circumstances.
Not at all.
It is a high time people should be more responsible to define the future. If not, then we'll find ourselves in a situation we'll regret.
Now, Eugene, we are getting into the crux of the Amnesty Month, where we're talking about the Amnesty Month is actually talking about surrender and collection of illegally owned weapons and arms. Because if that's not done, this is the result. So these are exactly guns in the wrong hands. So how do you explain that from the Amnesty Month development of the United
I think the raison d'etre, yes, the raison d'etre of the Amnesty Month is for situations like this and for countries that are in conflict, like Cameroon. Because a country that is not in conflict or does not have these weapons, then there is no need for the Amnesty Month. Like I said, the Amnesty Month was declared by the AU and is part of the Silencing the Guns flagship program of Agenda 2063. The Amnesty Month is expected to run to 2020, but it has been extended for another 3 years. September is the month considered as Amnesty Month. First, because of the International Peace Day, celebrated in September.
21st.
Secondly, because of the UN General Assembly that holds in September. And so, therefore, it is celebrated in September. What Cameroon is doing now is Cameroon is part of a project bringing together 7 other countries. And as such, Cameroon's project is running from September to December. So it's not because Cameroon launched the events in October, but the project itself has started in September.
Now, can we have statistics? How many illegal guns do we have, maybe in Africa and in Cameroon?
Yeah, in Africa we have over 40 million illicit weapons. And the bulk, almost 80% of these weapons are in civilian hands. And less than 14% are registered. So there's quite a number. If you come down to Cameroon,
yes,
about 15 years ago, Small Arms Survey did a study in Cameroon that estimated about 30,000 weapons in Cameroon. But with the conflicts in the northwest, in the southwest, in extreme north and other parts of the country, I'm pretty sure that we have more than triple that amount. We don't have a ready-made statistics, but we can estimate. I'm very sure we don't have less than 100,000 small arms.
And the Ministry of Territorial Administration brought up some new regulations to control these guns. Mr. Ejani, I think this is part of the control. Can we say that, following our topic, that peace in Cameroon, notwithstanding what happened yesterday, can take over?
let me just come back to that before you get to him.
Yes.
It's a whole law that was promulgated, that was adopted in the National Assembly in 2016 on the arms and ammunition in Cameroon. And this law is a revision of the 1973 decree on firearms in this country, because that decree was outdated. And in line with the so many instruments that Cameroon has ratified, there was a need, in line with recommendations from those instruments, to adopt a new law. Of course, some of these instruments will be like the Kinshasa Convention on Small Arms and Light Weapons in Central Africa, the Arms Trade Treaty, the UN Program of Action on Small Arms and Light Weapons, and they all requested or recommended laws that are in line with modern ways of regulating weapons. And so therefore, the new law actually try to look at the situation, the context, and so on. And that's why today there is emphasis on even artisanal weapons that are produced. And today some are becoming more sophisticated. Just to enlighten you that artisanal weapons were never part of the small arms registry.
But some of them
but
today are
eventually,
even more dangerous.
because some have become sophisticated, they have been used by armed groups, they have been used here and there. Today, they are also considered as part of weapons under small arms and light weapons.
Now, the Amnesty Month this time was commemorated under the theme Silencing the Guns for Sustainable Peace. Now, the topic we have today, can peace actually shoot the guns, if you like, silence the guns in Cameroon?
But apparently, before he comes in, I'm sorry.
Let him come in.
Peace can silence the guns in Cameroon, but the question is, how do we go about it?
That's the question I'm asking.
It's fundamental. Now, in principle, when we talk peace, we see peace from two dimensions. There is what is often termed negative peace. Peace seen as to silence arms. We see a situation whereby there is an open conflict and we do everything to stop hostility between parties. Now, when we used to talk of interstate conflict, it was easier as to intrastate conflict like we live today in Cameroon. And I'm sure that is where the problem is really coming when people talk about ceasefire. It becomes extremely complex because most often the logic of the state is upholding its sovereignty.
What you are explaining is how difficult it is.
I'm going to peace.
Okay.
I'm going to peace. I'm saying that it is possible. There are two mechanisms to take into consideration when we talk peace. When we see peace as to silence arms, it's a situation whereby we use maybe force to impose peace. This is what we see. Like you see, a state can recourse to arm with military, like we saw with Boko Haram. The government had to use the military in the English regions. There's another dimension of peace which we call sustainable peace, durable peace. Because remember, conflict is varied. You have social variables, economic variables, cultural variables, in which we try to build a culture of peace. If you should take, for instance, UN Resolution 3911, they want to build a culture of peace, in which we use education, in which we see justice, in which we see governance, we see issues like cooperation, dialogue are put in place.
Is that happening? Can we have that here? That is...
It is possible to reach.
Okay.
It all depends as to how we go about luring the different parties or actors within the conflict.
Can peace shoot the arms, the guns in Cameroon? And how can that be done?
If you give me the permission, I'll rephrase your question to, can justice silence the guns? I'm very uncomfortable when we talk about peace without talking about justice, because I want us to contextualize what we are saying. We are in almost a nearly 4-year conflict and running, and I don't think this started because people needed peace. No, we are here because people needed justice, and from justice we need peace. So if we're talking today about peace, how to attain peace, I think the route to peace is justice.
And how can that be done?
And how can that be done? We've had several forums where we've had the opportunity to talk to each other or whatsoever. But again, the call for frank, open, sincere, and genuine dialogue continues to ring as the only route to peace. And I am of that opinion that we know what we can do. We know that a frank, sincere, open, and honest dialogue should take place for us to attain peace. I know you will tell me the major national dialogue took place. Yeah.
It did.
But yeah. So
and some other constitutions.
Yeah, coming back to peace. As I said, we have to operationalize the concept, and I think that it's today we are in the face of a situation where it's a collective responsibility. The responsibility is shared. It's not only the responsibility of the government to look for peace, the responsibility of the community. And I'm happy that we have somebody from the civil society organization today. And I believe there is, personally, I feel there is that growing need for everybody to work in synergy, while the government is looking for for means to bring peace. It should try as much as possible to bring in all the actors possible, the civil society organizations, the media, the youths. I got in a report here, youth, women. For example, we are on this panel here. Women are bearing the brunt in the northwest and southwest region, but I don't see a woman on this panel telling us, giving us, proposing the way forward to peace. I think
we have had women before.
Yeah, we've had women. Well, maybe we've had women before. Well, that's just to tell you. It's just a small example to tell you that if we want to attain peace or want to achieve peace, we need an inclusive approach. Everybody we should accept that everybody has a role to play.
Emma, what do you put into this inclusive approach, according to you?
I think that I kind of try to buy with what Ajumin was already saying, because when you look at things, I remember this chapter I read in the Bible that says, if anyone pursues peace, then let them do what can lead to peace and mutual upbringing. It means we can't be talking about peace if we are looking at maybe individuals. When we're talking peace, definitely we're already saying, because we are we know that the country is made up of millions of citizens and they have to enjoy it. And just like Mola was saying, it doesn't have to be peace that that maybe people, what some people say, the peace of the graveyard.
What does that mean?
That's just sitting silent with your problems because you don't want to voice it out and something happens to you. Yeah, this is what we call peace of the graveyard. And this kind of peace is the one that easily turns behind and gets a weapon and start operating. Because when your mouth cannot talk for so long, definitely you are going to get something to replace your mouth to talk. And these are type of things that we should be getting, and we should understand that if we fetch peace, then we should really do what that can attract the peace that we want. The quality of peace that we want determines the type of things that we'll be doing to get that peace.
Yes, Eugene, you are an expert in this domain. How can we bring our efforts to bear on peace that should silence the guns for us to live as we lived before, even better?
Okay, let me just take you back, 20 years back. When we started working in this domain, we started with a campaign against war toys, firecrackers, and violent films. This is very key because our kids, our children, they cultivate violence or peace as they grow up. And when we started talking about these things, and then we morph into talking about small arms, let me just come.
Before you continue.
Yes, yeah.
Arms now are in the Anglophone section.
Coming.
Just listen. Yeah. And we had less of these arms in the Anglophone section. But where we have much of the arms today, the conflict is more that way. You can continue. I think...
Yeah. So what I was saying, when we started talking about these things, there were many people who they couldn't understand why Cameroon, an island of peace within a turbulent sub-region with almost all the countries involved in armed conflicts, why should we be talking about this? And usually what should be done is prevention, especially when it comes to arms proliferation. Always prevent, because the mafia in arms proliferation is bigger than any other mafia in the world.
Today, let us...
And when the arms are to penetrate, even if it is an iron wall that is built, those arms will still penetrate. So that said, I think I'm coming back to peace, and we had quite a number of definitions on peace. And of course, peace means a lot, but the way to peace is through a number of processes, and we should start looking at that. Dialoguing is very key. Reconciliation is key. Mediating is key. Negotiating is key. All these things are key. We don't need to just focus on one. They are holistic. And we've seen this happen. It's not like Cameroon is the first. This has happened in Rwanda. And today Rwanda is one of the most prosperous. This has happened in South Africa. And we saw the negotiation, the dialogue, how they went. This has happened in Sudan. So I think
many people are listening to you.
Yes.
Who should do this in Cameroon, because we need it?
We should do it.
We who?
You expect who to do it? We should do it. And that's why I'm talking about reconciliation. It's about us. It's not about someone coming from somewhere else to do it for us. Okay? Because we are Cameroonians. And that's what most people have failed to understand, that when there's a problem, it's between us. And so we could do that. Okay. And there are so many ways of doing that. Okay. Let me just come with a proposal.
Yes.
And it's possible.
We need it.
Why not appoint a negotiator? That could be done. But this should be a very independent person that can be influenced. And an office is created. It's an institution. Advisors are appointed. And then they set criteria on how to get on board on doing this. It's not difficult to do it. We can do it.
Okay. We are getting out of this topic. Your last word.
I just wanted to come into something. In principle, on the ground today, I can say we got three parties. We got the government, we got the population, and we got the separatists. And it is extremely complex. It's true. People do talk about dialogue. Like I said, it's a residue. When it comes to silencing the guns, it's extremely important. It's good. But I think today, the population of the Northwest and Southwest are supposed to emulate what we see in Cambe.
Okay.
If the population really needs peace, it's extremely complex, because from my view as a political scientist,
there are many people who don't know what is happening in Cambe. Just refresh our minds.
The logic of the state is not to go in Cambe. Cambe does not know war. Mm-hmm. The people live peacefully. The people of Cambe came together by themselves and told themselves, no, it's true we got problems, but we are not going to carry arms to resolve our problems.
Good.
So among themselves, they created what we call a community of security. I'm coming to explain something. Today, what we are living is extremely complex. We, the people, need to take that direct responsibility. The logic of the state is somehow different. The state will tell you, I'm not ready to negotiate my territorial integrity. And you can't deny that from the state, because the constitution does not give the president the power to do that, for instance. The separatists tell you our problem is independence. It's what they have been saying for a very long time. And the people are trapped. So we need a community of security. It's just this, in which the people come themselves together to see how they can mutually impose peace within their areas.
Thank you very much. I am reliably informed that in some parts of the BLM division, the Southwest province, Southwest region, where we have some of these hostile conflicts manifested, as we speak, some villagers have gone into the bushes to fish out some of these people who are causing atrocities there. I can tell you that I am reliably informed about that this morning. It ties with what you just explained. And it is with that we move out of this. Let him sit.
Section 243 of the Electoral Code clearly spells out who are regional councillors. It says regional councillors shall be delegates of divisions elected by indirect universal suffrage and representatives of traditional rulers elected by their peers. They shall be elected for a term of office of 5 years and shall be eligible for re-election. According to Section 246 sub 1, the regional council shall reflect the various sociological components of the region and gender aspects. For the election of regional councillors, each division shall constitute a constituency, but the law provides that certain constituencies could be warded because of their peculiar situation. This shall be by a decree of the President of the Republic. Section 248 sub 1 states that delegates of divisions shall be elected by an electoral college comprising municipal councillors, while representatives of traditional rulers shall be elected by an electoral college composed of first, second, and third degree native traditional rulers whose designation has been approved in accordance with the regulation in force. On qualification of candidates, the Electoral Code stipulates that no person may stand for election into a regional council unless effectively resident in the region concerned. However, non-residents of the region may stand for election into a regional council if they are domiciled within the territory of the region concerned.
Thank you very much, Ebenezer Akanga, for that report on who actually is going to be regional councillor, side by side the local authorities. And we want to welcome Mr. Ekome Manyani, who is the Director of Communications and Public Relations in the Ministry of Decentralization and Local Development. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Kilian. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we don't have much time to dig deep and say other things. From December, regional municipal councillors will be working face to face. Do we expect conflict of roles among these institutions?
Great question, Kilian. It is important, all right, at the beginning of this conversation to underscore the fact that the transfer of competencies and resources by the state to local authorities is governed and managed by an instrument which we call the General Code of Regional and Local Authorities. That said, when you read that code, when you read sections 19, 20, and 21 of that code, two things emerge. The first is that the transfer of competencies by the state to local authorities makes a distinction between transfer of competencies to regions and transfer of competencies to councils. Point number one. Point number two is that no local authority is more important than the other. In other words, you cannot have a local authority that exercises supervisory control over another. I'm going to break that down for your televiewers to understand. Okay. Now, if we look at councils, for instance, you will realize that, you know as much as I do, that there are three categories of councils in Cameroon. We have what we can call the ordinary council, which is the basic local authority. Now, competencies transferred to ordinary councils are contained in section 156 to 163 of the code. It's very specific. You also have city council. A city council is a local authority comprised of two or more subdivisional councils, like Yaoundé City Council. Yes. So you realize that in the code, the competencies transferred to such a council are contained in section 241. And then we have what we call subdivisional councils. Subdivisional councils are councils which operate under the ambit of a city council. Now, competencies transferred to such a council are contained in section 250 of the code. 1 minute, please. Let's look at regions now, because when we talk about...
Okay, we'll let you go to competencies. When you talk about competencies, what do you put in that comment?
When we talk about competencies, we're talking about the powers which have been transferred by the state to local authorities. And there are three blocks of competencies generally. We have economic development, we have health and social development, and then we have education, sports and culture.
Okay, yes. Now to the regional where you
Yes. Now, when we talk about regions, it may be interesting to note that there are two types of regions in Cameroon. We have the ordinary region, which some people may call the Francophone regions. Their competencies are contained in sections 267 to 273 of the code. And then we also have what we call regions with a special status, that is the southwest and northwest regions.
Yeah, I was going to come to that.
Yes, their own competencies are contained in sections 328 to 337. So based on that, Kilian, I think it is clear to your televiewers, as it is to me, that there is not going to be any form of conflict per se, because the law clearly defines and identifies the various competencies to be exercised by particular regional authorities.
Yes, granted. But before I ask you whether there are potential areas where there can be misunderstanding,
yes,
we cannot just go over special status.
Yes.
In special status, what do you put in that special status?
Okay, great. When you talk about the special status, you are indirectly talking about section 367. When you talk about the special status of the Northwest and Southwest, I know where you are coming from. One point which is very important in that special status is the public independent conciliator, for instance, which is found in section 367. Now, what is the special status? Once again, these are privileges given to the Northwest and Southwest regions to help them to uphold and preserve their linguistic and cultural heritage. So elements of that special status, you have a public independent conciliator, you have a House of Chiefs, you have the fact that these regions will be given the power to create development authorities such as Soeda in the Southwest and Medeno in the Northwest. Yes?
Yes, just hold it there. Leonard, you listen to him. There will be no conflict of roles.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Naturally, in every organization, there are conflicts. When you've done sociology of organization, you will see that. And that is why if you should take section 241, paragraph 4, you realize that the law itself says that when there is a conflict between the city council and the subdivisional council or the council, they recourse to the administrative authority within that area to resolve it. So it is fundamental. If we should go to Article 55 of our Constitution, Section 2, subsection 2 of it, you realize that the law is very clear. They have economic, social, just like he was saying. And you must equally understand that there are moments whereby these local entities can have problems, most especially when it comes to interest and resource collection, whereby maybe a country that I can retrieve my own resources here, and this, like we saw here in Yaoundé. So there is a possibility to have, and that is why you see, for instance, the National Council for Decentralization plays a very big role to come in to see how it can help them resolve their problem. You see equally the role of, you can take the role of the Minister of Decentralization, who plays an arbitrary type of role between these entities. So there can be a clash, but now the question is, maybe we'll come back.
Yes.
What does the law put in place to check problems that can emerge from it?
Okay, we'll get to that. Are there other potential areas of misunderstanding if you say there are no conflicts?
I like that coinage, potential areas of misunderstanding, not conflicts. Now, we can have potential misunderstandings between both authorities for two reasons. The first reason is that the competencies that have been transferred to regions and councils are in the same domain. Remember, I just made mention of the 3 blocks of competencies. So competencies transferred to regions are the same competencies transferred to councils, but at varying degrees. Okay, so the council does what the region does, but at a smaller scale. That is the first reason. The second reason is that the region and the councils operate on the same geographical territory. Therefore, if the land issue is not completely, totally, and holistically addressed, we might get to a situation wherein conflicts come up. But that, again, has been taken into account because the Minister of Decentralization and Local Development, His Excellency George Elanga Obam, has challenged the Interministerial Committee on Local Services to try as much as it possibly can to ensure that competencies transferred to regions do not trespass on competencies transferred to councils.
Okay.
1 minute, let me conclude, please. And it is for that reason that you see in that committee, the committee which I just mentioned, we have representatives of the United Cities and Councils of Cameroon.
Yeah.
They are there to protect the interests of the councils.
Okay.
Good.
Thanks. We got that very clearly, gentlemen. You listen to them, there will be no problem.
I want to say, listening to the brilliant presentation of Marianne Paul-Ekome, we can say there will be no problem. But if we go back into the past, let's always operationalize, even at this level, as Ejani said, we have conflicts between the city councils,
and the mayors,
yes,
the subdivision.
we can have all the laws put in place very well. It's at the level of implementation. Do people, the people you are voting in as regional councillors, do they understand the law? Do they understand their roles? That is where we have to ensure that we vote in the right persons.
Do you think that they don't understand their roles?
I will be a magician to know if whether or not they understand their role.
Then why do you doubt?
Now, I'm not saying now I doubt. Now I am saying that it now lies, the power now lies within those voting, within the electorates, to decide, to say, these are the people we want to represent us at the level of the regions. These are the people we believe we can hand our affairs to them to manage.
Yes, I think I was just asking you, I wanted you to clarify it, because NASLA, the National School of Local Administration, is actually to update the capacity of the local authorities and all of that.
Absolutely.
It is created because it was noticed that they needed it, and that's why it was created. Where else do you see conflict with the regional and local authorities?
I see conflict emanating from incompetent people and definitely the seizure of power from people, because like Ajuman was already saying, we have, when it comes to laws, we have very good laws, but implementation has never even been up to 25%, and this is why we have the crisis now. Yes, because somehow you get people who are saying there are people in power who have violated this law, this law, this law, and the people in power, they seem to have the powers over the law. So if we are going to be very sure that whoever is sitting anywhere is going to be competent, and at any point in time the local people start crying that this person is no more the person we voted, there are going to be people there who can take them off, then I see a conflict-free
so,
situation.
in other words, you are saying that since they say the law does not give room for conflict, the law should be implemented?
If the law is implemented, ideally, definitely, we hope that there is going to be nothing.
So there should be nobody above the law.
I wish to come to something. Like I was saying, the law is clear, tries to define everybody's domain like he was bringing, but there are moments whereby regional, local authorities need to interact together.
Absolutely.
This can lead to conflict. But there is another aspect of conflict I really want to draw our attention will be between local authorities and the state representatives. It's fundamental to take that into consideration. Remember that in a section 223, the president appoints a secretary general. Defining the role between the Secretary General and the President of the region is a problem. At the same time, take Section 76 of this law, in which local authorities need to relate with the SDO and the governor, for instance, to submit what they intend to do. How will this negotiation happen?
Exactly, I was coming to that. It
becomes a fundamental problem, most especially as to the intellectual capacity of those representatives.
Now, to you, the expert in this domain, we have the governor, we have the SDO, we have the DO, we have the public independent conciliator. All these people together, would that not make the decentralization machine heavier instead of making it lighter?
No, it won't make it heavier in any case. You should, first of all, understand that when we talk about decentralization, we are talking about two things. We are talking about local administration under the supervision of the state. So there cannot be decentralization without the supervisory authority, the governor at the level of the region and the senior divisional officer at the level of the council. So it's not going to be bogus in any case. I want to tell you that talking about supervision, the supervision of local authorities has been lightened by the General Code of Regional and Local Authorities, in the sense that today we are talking about the supervisory authority being the judge of legality and not the judge of opportunity. It means as a governor or as an SEO, you sit and you watch and ensure that what the president of the regional council is doing, what the mayor is doing, is in line with provisions of the Constitution. It is legal. You don't sit and tell him that I don't want you to do X or Y. So you don't judge the opportunity. Yes, it's going to be very possible. Let me learn, please. So the supervisory authority does not sit to decide on what has to be done and what should not be done. He is there to look and ensure that what is being done is in accordance with provisions of the Constitution.
We are not going out of the law. He's talking the law.
I think I see how
just to announce the entry of Elvis Teke to the studio with reactions from some of you who have been watching us, and their reactions are right here gathered by Elvis Teke. Send your reactions on CRTV web Facebook. Anytime you do that, we are going to have them read here. Teke will read them, but Emmanuel von Ban, you go to the end of what you wanted to say.
Yes, I think there are some two issues that I still want to highlight where I actually still see some kind of conflicts. Most of the times when people get into positions, they are prospecting, they are looking forward to getting to bigger heights, and these have always been very usual with politicians. That you get somebody, a local councillor today, tomorrow they want to get some exposure to gain maybe a position of a minister. And they start paying allegiance more to Yaoundé more than to the local people. And I think that
that would be a source of conflict.
This start making the people up on the ground, the people they are supposed to be ruling, uncomfortable, and before you notice, I think that you start getting. And then another thing is with the special status, and where in the regions where we are really very much concerned. I don't know the kind of survey that, I know that this is, some people will say this is not time we should be talking about this, but I want to really be very sure that the government is giving out what the people in these regions have been asking.
Okay.
Yeah, because, yes, because sometimes it shouldn't be just parceling to give, thinking that it's going to satisfy them, whereas it's going to boil the whole thing to zero.
Just 30 seconds, we have reactions.
Yes, those regions, they are so desperate for peace, and I think that's something which is not sufficient enough to provide that peace would still fall short of many things. So.
Yes, 30 seconds, please.
Yes, please. Talking about conflicts or misunderstanding, just to say that the way the law was drafted, there should not be any conflict. However, if there are conflicts, the very law says that we can move to the administrative judge. Good. So there is a competent court and competent authorities which will handle all of those conflicts or misunderstandings. So Cameroonians should be very comfortable. The process is going to unfold normally.
Thank you. It's time for us to welcome you, Elvis Teke. The reactions. Welcome to the program. The reactions.
Yes, quite a good number, but we'll take just a few for the sake of time. We'll begin with Francois Lole, who says, "Good day to everyone. I'm afraid of Cameroon, and government needs to step up and do something because there's already things are already getting out of hand relating to what is happening in the country." Joseph Njelo Apia and Umaru Buba, they're praying for Cameroon, South Sudan, Nigeria, and Vitalis Nji Banyong says this is the worst gruesome act in recent history of Cameroon. And Lawrence Doe is watching. Ibrahim Usman says peace is when there is no war, and now there's war with guns, and the failure to restore peace will not stop by stopping the artificial noise of gun, and let all elements of peace building in our country, regardless of any ethnicity or social status of Cameroonians, be brought on board.
The last one.
And Momo Dero says justice would follow. Just when there's justice, there's peace. And we'll conclude with Tata Napoleon, who says if we have peace, it actually means soldiers are not at war, and the place where there's democracy is given its perfect place. Peace is actually going to silence the guns.
Thank you very much, Elvis Teke. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I must thank you, gentlemen who are on this panel. We have Mr. Manyane Ikome, Director of Communication and Public Relations in the Ministry of Decentralization and Local Development. Thanks for coming, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. We have you, Molai Jani Leonard Kulu, a political scientist, University of Chang. Welcome.
Thank you very
We're
much.
pleased to have you. We have Jumani Francis, journalist, Cameroon Insider. Thank you for coming.
A pleasure, Mr.
Yes, we also are happy to have had you here, Manuel von Ban, journalist, The Horizon.
It was a pleasure.
Yes, we also had Mr. Eugene Galem, Executive Director of CAMEROON, who was here. And we were very happy to have the clarifications he gave us. Thank you once again for your attention. If you caught us on the program halfway, you can watch us tomorrow Monday by 3 p.m. or you can watch this program at your convenience at CRTV web Facebook. Thanks for your attention. A happy day ahead.
Thank you.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.